Welcome to the Delvin Cox Experience, the podcast in which each week I'm on a one-man mission to unite our people through diversity. And that statement couldn't be any more truer than it is this week. I'm your host, Delvin Cox, and with me is a number of guests. Let me just start from left to right. Everybody just state who you are and where are you from exactly.
I am from North Chicago, Illinois. My name is Edward Varnell, or you guys could call me Eddie V.
What's up, Eddie?
Nothing much. All good.
My name's Christian. Call me Chris from Chicago, part of According to Sources. Sports, media, writing, you name it, we do it.
You 1 hour from me.
Oh, for real? What part of the city you
from? North Chicago is an hour, is like Lake County. So you know where Six Flags is at in Gurnee?
Yeah, I know where that's at. I'm familiar.
It's like 30 minutes from that area. North Chicago is. So it's like from a train ride from here to Chicago is like an hour.
That's what's up. That's what's up.
And last but not
Derek
least,
Spinner, Richmond, Virginia, by way of DC, and I'm coming to Chicago later this year. I'm doing like a little travel thing, so I'm going to Nashville, going to Texas, and I'm going to Chicago. Portillo's, going to see the Cubs, and get some deep dish. Gotta do that.
Get some Giordano's too, man. Get you some deep dish.
Yeah, I need a hookup, man. Just tell me where to go.
Portillo's is okay. Like if you had like 5 Points or something like that, or those kind of places, Portillo's is almost like that. It's here or there.
Okay.
I think Greg Miller has something to say about that.
Yes. That's where I heard about it from.
Yeah, me too. All right, let's get into the meat and bones while we're here. We're here to talk about gun control. As everybody knows, these last couple of weeks, to say the least, has been troubling.
Yeah.
And let's just keep it real. It's not even this last couple of weeks. It's been like this for a while. It's just now it's more vocal than it's ever been before. So first of all, let's start from Christian. I'm going to ask each one of you guys this question. When you guys heard about the Parkland shooting, where was you guys at and what was your first thoughts?
Whenever we have one of these shootings across our country, I always think about, the families and the people their lives are lost. And then, I think about what causes it. And there are a lot of different kind of variants to it. There's the mental health portion, there's the gun portion, there's the access to guns. It's a faceted issue, and it needs attention to all sides, not just one of them. But it's an issue we got to solve, man. Seriously.
Definitely, yeah. Derek, what was your thoughts when you first heard about this incident in Parkland?
I was at work, and I was part of me was shocked, and part of me wasn't. Because it happened so often, and I don't know, man. Because I have kids, and my youngest one is in elementary school, and it just scares me every day I drop my kid off, man, and I hug him and kiss him and tell him I'll see you later. And there's a small part in the back of my mind that says, you may not, because you never know. And so my heart goes out to those parents, to the friends of everybody in that community, because I've seen Columbine, I've seen the shootings at Virginia Tech, and I didn't have this growing up. This is all, just it happens too much. And, Mark Rubio was asked the question, was he still take money from the NRA? And he kind of dodged around that question. And I'm like, I'm bothered by that, because this shooting happened in your community and you still are on the fence, about gun control. And I think the way that people really need to step up is to vote them out, because you're choosing money over kids or other adults' lives. And I think when election time comes around, I think it's either this year, I think November, you're going to see a big change.
Well said. Eddie, what was your thoughts when you first heard the information about this?
Um, I was at work, and then when I got home and I looked at it, I was kind of numb to it. I'm just like, oh great, another white person shooting. Like we're about to have this talk and this thing about just these crazy mass shootings. And it's so weird that why is it always when it comes to mass shootings that it's always you can just have an assumption that it's a white school that it's kind of upsetting that these schools shootings are happening ever since Columbine. I think me and you, Devin, we was talking about this. Ever since Columbine, nothing has really happened. But if this was a gang war, I bet you a whole bunch of politicians and a whole bunch of outsiders will be responding that we need stricter gun laws and all this enforcement and everything. And I still don't understand why these adults and these other politicians are seeing kids getting killed and nothing is being done. And I'm seeing this too many times that happen. And the only way that I feel like something's ever going to be done about it is that these politician kids got to get killed and shot at. Because if Mark Rubio's daughter or something would have got killed, oh, you better believe he'd have been trying to pass some gun laws. And it's kind of weird that they're seeing this and getting to the point where I'm numb about it, where I'm just like, oh, it's just another shooting again. Let's see how all of this plays out, all the opinions that happen, and then let it go away for the next 2 months because E3 or something has happened, or some scandal with some other person has happened. Like we're looking at this, we'll have our opinions to talk about it, and then we'll be done with it because nothing's going to be done.
Like I said, you got to vote. Find out where the politician stands. What's more important to you? Do more kids have to die? Or are you willing to tell the NRA and all these other organizations, look, kids are too important. These are our kids that are dying in school. And kids, like I was just telling Delvin, kids are going to be at that school going to be messed up, man. There was an incident today. And how do you send your kid back to school after something like that? You know, and I'm, like I say, I send my kid to school and, you know, I pray and just be like, God, you know, because my son's school is not like a hotel type school. It's more like a motel where each class, you can enter the classroom from the outside. So you're out in like a big open area. And my son's school is extremely unsecure because the only thing you can just walk into any part of the school. There's no security anywhere. And you can hop over a little residential fence. And if you have a gun, you can just walk up and spray 4, 5, 6 classrooms before anybody will probably realize what has happened. And the office is at another side of the campus. So you could literally shoot up 6 or 7 rooms, jump back in your car, within 2 minutes, be on the interstate, and nobody, because it's set right in the middle of a residential area. If nobody is really looking out the window, they wouldn't have no idea who did what. They will have to go back and check the video feed. And I drop my kid off every day, man, and it just bothers me about that school. And it's because the elementary school is in his district, and I'm thinking about seriously trying to get him to another school because it just bothers me that the security is so lax so bad.
Which is weird because in my area, after the fear of just gangs and everything, they have metal detectors. They tighten up security. Like all our stuff became mandatory at school. Like you had to get your bags checked. You had to show your ID. Like we was forced to make sure that we followed the rules so that nothing like this would ever happen. And it's kind of strange that in in a majority white school, there's a expectancy that none of this is going to happen. But in a black school, all precautions are taken, and this even got us stronger now that you have to literally be on a list that that you could be, that if you're related to a child or to a student, you have to be on the list within that school. They have to check that to see that you're on the list for you to even take a step beyond the office.
Yeah.
But yet in a majority white school, if you walk through the door, that's it. No question about it.
So, Chris, I know you don't have kids, but what are your thoughts on some of these issues that we are plagued with right now?
You know, the security and safety of a child is something that parents should never have to even worry about or consider. But in the times that we live in, that's a daily occurrence, you know? It's just something that's always in the back of your mind. Like what ifs, it could happen, the possibilities of it. But that shouldn't be the way that we live our lives. But the ways we live and the country that we live in, where guns are such a prevalent issue, I mean, you can't really escape it.
Do you think this situation could have been prevented in any sort of way?
The Parkland shooting?
Yeah. That one in particular.
Of course.
Oh, yeah.
The federal, local, and state government failed those families.
Yep.
So many calls to the police, so many warning signs, so many red flags. There was reports of him killing animals, of him bragging about guns, him threatening to shoot people. There were even reports of students in the school joking about him being the possible next school shooter. Come on now.
It's not even that. One 19-year-old has $150 some to walk into a gun store and buy an AR-15. Like, if you are a gun owner, that's questionable. I would be like, you're still a teenager. What time are you buying this gun? Because we don't know when he bought the gun or where at. I would be like, there's no way. If you're 19 and you got $150 some plus to buy this kind of gun and ammunition. You want to know what I was trying to buy at $150 some? I'm trying to buy me a GameCube with some games at GameStop. I'm trying to buy me some like teenagers think of, when it comes to having a lot of money, they think about spending on themselves to keep them popular amongst their crowd. What who's got time to be going to a gun store to buy that?
Well, considering where the situations he dealt with in his life and just the way he's lived his life up until that point, you never know what's going through someone's mind, you know?
Yes, that is true.
You know, people say that calling these people that commit these horrible crimes mentally ill, they see that as a kind of a pat on the back or just an excuse, but it's not, you know? There's so many steps that a person takes before they do something like this. It's just not, you wake up one day, I'm going to go shoot up a school. There's so many levels to it and so many steps. But like Delvin said, it could have been prevented.
My question is this, though. If he had mentioned something about ISIS, they would have taken him off the streets. You know, just mention that you can do some kind of like search or try to how to join ISIS, and you are automatically put on the FBI's list.
But
there's actually a law in Florida on the books right now. That's like it's been a law for a while that if there's if there's suspicion that you aren't mentally capable of having guns and you show signs that you might be on the cusp of doing something like that, they can take your guns away.
But I think that's the thing about gun control that people have been saying, that you need to be analyzed. You need to go to a therapist and you need to be checked for your mental health. And then that needs to be reported to the gun stores or your background check. That needs to be attached. So if there is signs or showing that this person is not really stable to purchase a gun and handle it. Now, secondhand buying is a different story. But if none of this stuff is if you are have a behavior that's not stable, that needs to be reported in the background check. Like,
you see, that's the thing, Edward. All these states have different types of databases that store information. None of them have the same exact database, like a countrywide, one that can be accessed by all 50 states. That, and not all of these states collect the same amount of information either. I can walk into Alabama right now and buy an AR-15, buy a shotgun, buy anything I want, and I'm pretty sure it wouldn't be stored in some national database that everyone can look at.
And that's the thing. The background checks to me feel like if you just going to a job interview, but it's lesser. You know, if your background check is worse than you buy an M-rated game by just showing your driver's license, we got a problem. We literally have a problem. You know, there's things that these stores can do, but I think they choose not to do. Like, we got to get to a point where if you're buying so many guns, there should be some kind of record about all the guns that you own. Because this is not Contra. You're not fighting no alien to defeat no heart. If you got past more than 8, I would probably say 7 guns, definitely in the area that you live at, why would you need that many? In a suburban neighborhood, what's with the AR-15 and a shotgun and all of that stuff? Like,
okay, let me ask you guys a question to get into this. Does anybody on this panel right now think that we should own guns, period?
No. I think everyone has the right to the Second Amendment, the right to arm and defend themselves, you know?
Yeah.
I may not disagree that everyone.
The problem with that, though, is when that amendment was written, people were using guns when you had to pack gunpowder. Exactly. They weren't thinking, you know, you're going to have a gun that can shoot off 400 rounds in a minute. You know, the laws have to be updated because that works for that time period, but not now. And I do agree that everybody has a right to bear arms, but there should be a limit. Like, if you out there and you have, you know, 2 or 3 AR-15, I think that's a red flag. And what people don't realize now is that you can go out there and you don't even have to go to the gun store anymore. If you know how to design like parts of a gun, you can use a 3D printer and print everything out. You know, feds would never know. You know, that's another thing that people don't realize.
I think you could bear arms, and you have a right to have at least a handgun. But it's kind of weird of what area that you live in and what environment that you're in, that you expanding beyond just a handgun. You don't need a shotgun when you live in a rich neighborhood. You don't need an AR-15 when you live in Texas and all you are is an apartment by a whole bunch of Popeyes and Starbucks and stuff like that. Like that's insane. What would you need that for? When you're buying
a rich neighborhood, you know, because those type of people live in rich neighborhoods, sometimes there is a chance of a home invasion, you know. And what were you gonna say?
But even if you have a home invasion, you should be a handgun should just be able to do. If you're using like an AR-15, like in a house to kill one person, you might do more damage shooting that inside the house than you would do just a regular handgun. Because
what do you say to the people that are mentally sane, have never committed a crime, that want to own a gun like that?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I can understand the fascination with people in guns. It's been part of our culture forever. Whereas, you know, in movies, you see Rambo with the big gun. Not saying that those movies influence us to do dangerous and violent acts. I think that's kind of ridiculous in a sense, but it's part of our culture. Gun culture has been here forever. So I can see why people would want to own these type of weapons. But I also see that there needs to be regulations for it. More responsible people need to have their hands on these guns.
Well, I think there is responsible people, but those responsible people sometimes still need to be trained. They still need to educate. I understand you have a right to buy your gun and to bear it, but the thing about it is you also need to know when and where to use it. Because if just because you got a gun doesn't give you the right to use it anywhere at any time for any purpose. And that's what some people that's what some people sometimes think when they buy their gun. You know, just look, when they had that picture of that white man, he was standing in front of like 7 or 8 cops, and he had all those kind of guns. Like, where was he going? Like, you're going to Starbucks and you're seeing dudes with AR-15s and all of this stuff. Like, why is that stuff needed for? Why you need to walk around in public scaring people? Because you might be a person who is stable, but you might be a jumpy person. When something starts popping,
to your point about the walking around and carrying those type of guns, those are only in open carry states, and we're open carry states predominantly
in the South.
The South, Virginia, Texas, Mississippi, Louisiana, Georgia.
Yeah.
All those are state.
Yeah, but there are people who people who do it and take advantage of it. They're doing way too much. That's insane. You have a right to, carry your gun, but understand carrying a handgun. You walking around this mug with an AR-15 going to Starbucks where there's kids and stuff there. Like, you are. I fear that you are endangering other people around you. You're happy that you're carrying your gun, but you don't think about the people that surround you. If we as black
people carry AR-15s in Starbucks,
dude, there has been pictures of folks in Texas walking around with all their guns just hanging on their back.
But to your point, that's kind of anecdotal though, because AR-15s and semi-automatic rifles only make up 2% of gun deaths.
Yeah, but it's just like, if you're going to get coffee, like, why would you need something like that? Why would you fear and danger? Like, if you're going to do if you're also about guns and just love carrying them around, there's the military that you could join in. There's the navies. Like, there's this stuff for the government that you could join, where you could learn the stuff and use it for the purpose that it's supposed to be used, whether you're going to war or not. Like, you could use it like that. Why would you need it to get some coffee? Why would you need to take it to a library? Like, there's a fear that if we were carrying guns as a black person, we might get shot and killed. Even though we're in an open carry state, we might get shot and killed because there's an assumption.
Orlando Castile, perfect example.
Pretty much. And
you see, owned everything. Everything was legal. Had the concealed carry permit. Cop sees that on the reader. He tells him he has a gun. Bam.
A kid gets killed by having a toy gun that stores are not supposed to sell. They're not supposed to sell cap guns anymore, and the kid gets killed. But if that was a white kid, not one thing would have happened to him. And I'm not trying to make this racial or anything, but let's
get into that since you brought it up. There is a color issue with this, in a sense where let's call a spade a spade. There's different standards for African Americans and people of minorities than there is for white people. For example, a lot of African American schools don't have this problem because there are usually armed security guards in the front of the school, or like in New York, they have metal detectors.
Everywhere.
A lot of the white schools don't have this.
And that's the weird thing. After Columbine, why has metal detectors haven't become mandatory in those white schools or majority white schools? Because there's a population of blacks and Hispanics and everything like that. Why is it that the fear in the urban areas or the projects or ghettos that they just fear that gang war and all of this stuff with their owning their guns? we literally could just go to Indiana, buy a gun, and come back, and we don't even have to kill nobody. We could just own it right there. We would get questioned on why we have a gun and everything. Where are you going to? Where are you taking your gun at? Were you part of this robbery on this day? Do you know this? Like, we would get questioned like crazy. But like, just like in a white neighborhood or a white school, they don't think nothing about that. Columbine and Sandy Hook and all of that stuff, Virginia Tech, schools should have had metal detectors in the first place.
Yeah, but Virginia Tech is different though, because you're talking.
That's a college. I can understand.
Yeah, what I'm saying is, you're talking a spread out campus.
Yes.
The guy walked into one like dorm and just shot everybody up. But who's gonna monitor the metal detector at a dorm?
Well,
you gotta. You're gonna place a guard in every building.
Wasn't they supposed to have one in a dorm? Because like when you go to dorms, don't they have like some kind of secretary or some kind of guard when you go in?
I don't know. That's what I'm asking. I don't know.
Yeah.
In college,
I'm old, man. I haven't been to a college campus in years.
A lot of college campuses, there aren't any metal detectors. One, because they don't feel the need to delegate funds to it, and because there are a lot of buildings and entrances and doorways and paths on college campuses. Funding that, putting metal detectors everywhere, that would definitely help the issue. But then again, that's up to these chancellors and these presidents, these universities, to take initiative and care about their students.
But if you could spend $2 billion on a football field, but can't spend $2 billion on a metal detector, that's a problem.
Well, it's a difference because
but the thing about it is that I'd rather have safety over your football. Your football field could wait. Just because I mean,
colleges, man. That's
I know.
That's money.
I know, but it shows to some people that if we just had a shooting and everything, and we need more protection, and that just gets thrown to the side, not even think of, but yet Howard Lincoln Junior High is getting a 2.5 billion football field. It's just like you could have used that money to make sure that shootings like this doesn't happen. Instead of
when you talk about the way they spend money in college athletics, the money football generates doesn't go towards the school. It goes towards all the other athletic programs. All the money that comes from like tuition and grants and what's the word?
Like books
alumni. Exactly. Alumni. All that money goes towards the school. They don't usually delegate that football money to the school.
But I guess I'm just using that as an example or a viewpoint, just probably for me, is that when I see stuff like this and money that should be used for a better purpose, it doesn't get used. Sometimes I feel like all that other stuff should wait, and it should be used for the purpose of trying to protect everybody. Like, I was listening to NPR, and a lot of teachers in Florida was talking about how in the heck that you want to give us or grant us or $1,000 bonus to keep us armed, but then you can't give us money to actually buy school supplies or give us higher pay and stuff like this.
Let's get into that right now, because the talk of the town originally was our president in chief said that all teachers should just be armed with guns, which sounds absurd.
The president said that he would run into the school without a gun. You cannot even run in the first place.
Our president thinks he's Chuck Norris.
Yeah,
that shit ain't happening.
As much as I disagree with the draft for wars and stuff, and you should have to fight a war that you don't want to fight. You dodge Vietnam. However many times he dodged a draft, you think you're gonna run into a building without a gun? I mean, you're not helping yourself when you're making a situation like this about yourself.
I think everybody was just like, it's not even you running to the building, it's you running, period. Like, do you know your way to run? Like, what's like
he lives in a fantasy world. I'm just gonna say that straight up. He lives in a fantasy world where he tries to make himself the center of everything that happens. Anytime something happens, instead of it being about the scenario that happened, it becomes about him, and that's a big problem.
Yeah.
And that's what I have a problem with. Instead of this issue being about these kids who went through this dramatic situation and are now, because of the situation, are frankly becoming leaders because they're doing more than these adults have ever done about this situation.
Yep.
The only reason why we're still talking about the situation is because of these kids out here marching and leaving classes and sitting there constantly bringing it up.
And
I commend those kids for that.
I kind of got to say this, and this might sound weird, like those white kids are experiencing what black people go through when black people don't get listened to.
In a sense, yeah, I can see that.
Because I mean, in a sense, like we're trying to say something and speak out, and we're getting ignored. Those kids are kind of realizing in that own way that you guys can say all the stuff that you're going to say, but you're still going to get ignored. And to me, and that's why
about those kids though that people don't realize. In 2 to 3 years, those kids are going to be voters.
Exactly.
All this stuff that's happening right now.
Yeah.
I think those kids that's already 18, that's at that school that could vote, I think they literally probably gonna start registering quickly, and to get those folk out. What Mark Rubio did at that CNN town meeting, what Rick Scott not even showing up, that just showcased that you don't belong in here.
I'm gonna tell you like this: as a person from Florida, the smartest thing Rick Scott could have did was not show up.
Yeah,
because that was a lose-lose situation. And when you have that much heat on something that's that heavy, and you're sitting there with all these kids who've dealt with trauma, the last thing they want to hear from you is your thoughts and prayers.
Yeah.
I think nobody wants to hear about thoughts and prayers. That doesn't do nothing.
Nothing wrong with thoughts and prayers, but I don't want to hear that when I just lost my best friend.
No.
And you're not doing anything about it. And I know people will say, and Chris mentioned earlier, that assault rifles only are 2% of the deaths in the world, in the United States. But the problem with that is we don't really never think about that until it's somebody that we know.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it's somebody we know, then it's a whole different story.
And that's why I said
2% sounds too much.
And that's why I said, if those politician kids were at a school and they got killed or shot at, the whole conversation would be different. Because then it's going to...
The conversation should have just changed because just last year, a politician got shot.
Yeah. Steve Scalise, the baseball game. Nothing happened. Nothing happened after 26 kids died in Sandy Hook. So why do we expect anything to happen now? 26 children under the age of 8 haven't even lived life yet.
Yeah.
Right.
One of their own got shot, and he was like, "No, we don't need to change nothing."
This sometimes is the sad part, is that they want to use everything else as a scapegoat so they don't have to deal with this debate. They don't have to deal with this topic. I'm like, really, video games? So we're still using that excuse? Oh, we're doing movies and media. Like, we're still using that stuff for us to explain a mass shooting? I'm like, no.
You know, I don't know about y'all, but I've played violent games. I played GTA. I've played Assassin's Creed. I played all these games. And not once I turn my 360 off and be like, oh, wait, let me go shoot up a bank. That's
this is my question. Okay, so if we're going to blame video games and stuff, has Trump or any politician walked into a gun store and went to the training park and seen a controller hanging down with a TV? Because if we're going to equivalent shooting an actual gun to doing something on a controller, then we need to see all the adults who bought guns be at a gun range with controllers.
Well,
I literally would love to see that.
Growing up,
the people that say that don't realize that you can shoot a gun in a video game doesn't translate to you actually going out in the street. because everything is different. If you hold a gun and you shoot it and you get something, you can just take like a 380. The recoil and everything that you have from an actual firearm, you don't get that in a video game. I think people just want to find an excuse. They, have been blaming video games for years. I know Call of Duty, I don't remember which one it was, but they had it where you walk through, I think like an airport or a mall.
Modern Warfare 2.
Yeah, and you could just shoot people at random, and it didn't affect the outcome of the game at all. It was just like a really long cutscene. But politicians need something to say, this is why kids are acting like this, because they're spending all their time playing video games. I play driving games. It doesn't mean that you're going to go out there in the street and not have an accident because you put X amount of hours in a video game. But it's going to take the gun manufacturers getting sued by hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars to get this change. Are we going to continuously have these shootings and it's going to get worse and worse? I mean, I thought we hit the tipping point when we had that shooting in Vegas, and I said, well, it can't get worse than that. They'll step in and change the laws because, we have somebody checking into an airport, into a hotel, and he just spraying people out, and it's like, no, well, we're sorry. Thoughts and prayers for the people in Vegas, okay. Kids get shot in the school. Thoughts and prayers going out for the kids at the schools. Okay. Enough thoughts and prayers. How about changing the laws? No, we're not going to do that because, the NRA says you have the right to bear arms and they're going to keep putting money into politicians' pockets.
Yeah,
Problem is getting politicians out.
The worst thing about all of this is we actually have gun control on the books. We just don't enforce the laws.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, we could always use more, but how about we enforce the ones we have already and see if that works? Because I don't see anyone even talking about it. All these loopholes for people to buy guns. There's no way in the world you should have to be 21 to buy a handgun, but be 18 you could buy a semi-automatic rifle. That doesn't make any sense.
But I think the thing a lot of people is just like, we got so much restrictions on all of this other stuff, but guns are one thing that don't have no restrictions. And that's just weird. Like, stuff that's not even harmful to you has a restriction. Guns, nothing.
Nobody bats an eye if a 19-year-old kid goes into a gun store and buys an AR-15, but people will lose their mind if you go into like an Office Max and buy, or into like a CVS and try to buy too much Motrin or whatever the drug is that they use to make crystal meth. If you buy too much of that, they put you on a list. If you go in there and you try like buy any type of cold medicine like Sudafed or any of these liquid medicines, they'll be like, oh, you trying to make meth? Yeah, we're gonna have to lock you up. You go in there and try to buy a gun at 15, they're like, it's all right.
Like,
just buying a gun.
Like, some of that stuff is locked up. Like, it's weird. Like you go to Walgreens and you got to get something that's locked up, and it's just like, okay, there's more restrictions and precautions taken with this, but not guns still. Like there's
baseball on that. In South Florida, there are so many gun shows, and it is so easy to go to a gun show and buy a gun. It is ridiculous.
Yeah.
All you literally have to do is just pull up. People are selling guns outside the gun show. Give them the money and be on your way.
There's no registry, no background check. Here you go.
That's how you circumvent the system. Because, like I said, you go to a gun show and just buy it straight up.
Back in, I think, 92, I think Maryland and DC, they were changing the gun laws. And I actually had somebody in Texas put a Glock 19. I gave them the money, and they put put the gun in a box and shipped it to me through Greyhound. Um, and I was able to have a handgun without doing any type of background check, and I could walk around, get a sealed gun, concealed permit, and walk around anywhere, with a gun that wasn't even registered. It was so easy to buy a gun, and this is long before, because back then I think if you wanted to have an automatic rifle, you had to go get you like a M16 or something. But people are so fixated on guns, and they're right. It's more, if you take this away from me, then you are taking away a right. But it's like, why do you need this gun? And people are like, I want to have it because I want to have it. But why? So I can go hunting. What animal are you hunting that you need this high-powered rifle? Because there's people here in Virginia. It's a gun store maybe 10 minutes from my house, maybe 12, that you can go in and buy this gun. You fill out your paperwork and you come. They do background checks here. You have to wait 7 days. A form of government calling it a cooling off period, that they run your check and then you come back in a week and you can pick your gun up. But for me, I'm not a gun advocate. I don't have a gun in my house. I'm one of my old dudes. You bring it to my house, I just rather cut you with a knife, something jagged, let you bleed out. But when I lived in Mississippi for a year, and there was a guy there that I worked with. Somebody was breaking into his house, and he shot the guy, and police came to investigate. And they were like, "How many times did you shoot him?" He said, 6 times. They was like, "Well, why did you shoot him 6 times?" He said, "Because that's all the bullets I had." And he said, like, "If you're going to charge me with murder, I might as well empty the clip." And I know I'm going off subject here, but I just think that the laws need to be changed where there are stricter background checks. And I think that the government has money to spend on stupid stuff, that they could create some kind of national system that every gun store, every hospital, when people have any kind of mental issue, whether they're coming out the military or whatever, it should all go into this database. And if somebody wants to go and get a gun, they have to go through this database. And if it comes back okay, fine, you can have a gun. If not, you don't get a gun.
Yeah. And Chris,
I don't know what that's going to change, but it's a start somewhere.
Chris, I think in our area, like there's no gun stores. I don't think there's a gun store in Chicago, besides like maybe like Walmart or Dick's or something like that.
Walmart doesn't do guns anymore.
Oh, they still out there?
They raised the restrictions to 21 now.
Okay, but I don't think there's like a personal gun store in Chicago, because we don't have one here in North Chicago.
Y'all getting guns from somewhere.
I mean, there are gun stores in Chicago. Like, there's a lot of them, but there isn't a huge type of like chain store of gun stores here. But trust me, there's a lot of them.
Is it like independent? Like you have to go, like it's a lot of land around or something like that? Because in Indiana, they have a lot of those kind of stores. So, it's very weird because we're all talking about gun control, and a lot of people haven't touched on secondhand sales. I wonder, because I don't think they do. Do they do a computer database about when you get it registered, when you buy your gun and everything? Because then someone say they still doing paper form or something like that.
Yeah, I'm sure they are. I don't think everybody's on an electronic system. They need to be. It's much faster, probably more accurate. So yeah.
Okay.
Any final thoughts, gentlemen?
Um,
If we're gonna blame video games, the NRA, they have a PlayStation 1 game. You guys need to check it out so they could be part of the blame too. I think we got to do something has to be done. And this is not just for schools or anything like that. This has to be for everybody. You know, with our gun controls and methods on buying guns, on being educated, we need a better system, and we need it now. And if politicians of these politicians who are about the money and about trying to get your vote by saying stuff, they're going to be using when the town halls, the stuff that you say in the newspaper, they're going to be using the stuff that you said to show the people how dishonest and untrustworthy you are and how you feel about certain topics. They're going to be using that. So it's time for these adult politicians that people believe that they're going to be doing something good for them. They need to start raising up, and they need to start having their discussions, allowing gun research to be done. Why these killings are happening a lot? Start talking about mental health. They need to start doing something now, because in November, if they start voting in a lot of Democrats and a whole bunch of change starts happening, the NRA themselves are going to be feared. They're going to be scared because their money now doesn't have no power. And once the NRA money doesn't have no power, that's when change is going to happen. That's when a lot of politicians, Republican or Democrat or independent or whatever, are going to get concerned. Where it's just like, if you dependent on their money for you to do what your campaign is going to already be in trouble.
Hey, Derek,
my final thought is I don't think putting guns, giving teachers guns is a solution to this problem. I think you secure your school and have a better idea who's on your school's campus. I don't think giving a teacher a 9mm that's not what the teachers are there for. I think you giving them, that's a responsibility that that teacher or teachers don't need. I think you figure out metal detectors, security cameras. I know a lot of the schools here, not my son's school, but a lot of the schools here in the county where I live, there's a police officer at every school. So I just think that the schools need to come up with a better security system as far as having doors locked, metal detectors, doing something else. Putting a gun in a teacher's hand is the absolute last resort. And I think that should be way down the list, almost at the bottom, never an immediate option.
And we haven't even touched about with school teachers having a gun box, because if they don't have a gun box, kids could easily sneak into their room while the teacher out having some coffee, get their gun, and something can happen.
Well, the other part of that is if something happens at a school and the teacher is trying to shoot someone else there who has a gun and they shoot and kill an innocent kid, who's gonna, like, do the parents sue the school? Do they sue the county? Like, who's gonna take responsibility for the chances that something goes wrong? Because usually in one of these situations, there's a small percentage where something's going to go wrong. And who's going to take responsibility when this happens? Because you're not going to tell me, oh, Mr. Spinner, we're sorry, your son was caught in the crossfire. Yeah, sorry, thoughts and prayers.
And then the teachers are going to be required to buy the ammo to do all the training. Like, just saying that, okay, here's a gun, That's it. That doesn't solve the problem. There are other factors that these teachers got to do. So yeah, so let's say the teachers do get a gun. And everybody's just like, well, who's gonna have it and who's out? Do you think some old woman or some old man or somebody who's very forgetful gonna be thinking about that gun?
No, I don't want my son's teachers or any other teacher having a gun. I think they have enough stress on them about, getting kids educated. They don't need this on their plate. Find some other solution.
The kids don't feel safe with Miss Sandra with the glass eye shooting some dude. Like,
you ain't turn your homework in?
Exactly.
Give my final thoughts on this real quick before we head out. I think that when it comes to gun control, because of the country that we're in, we're probably going to never see a solution to it, unfortunately. Not this generation, at least. But I hope what people gather from this podcast episode and other people talk about this is that you all have a voice. Whether you're 16, 18, 55, if you don't like what your politicians are doing, vote. Get out there and vote, change politicians. Or if you're that young 16-year-old kid who was in this shooting, become that politician. It's time for people to start stepping up and being the future they want to see. Like I said, I've said it before. I don't have a problem with people owning guns. You want to buy whatever gun you want to buy, that's your right. But we need to have these guns in more responsible people's hands. And you can't sit there and tell. I don't want to hear thoughts and prayers if it's my child who gets killed. I don't want to hear statistics about, it's only 2-3% of people who actually get killed by assault rifles or handguns or whatever it is when it's your child who gets killed. I think people kind of lose sight of that. When one death of an innocent is too much. And I think we need to, as a country, take a real good look at ourselves and see why do we kind of marginalize things, tragedies, when it happened with, it was only 16 people. In the grand scheme of things, it's millions of Americans out there. It doesn't matter because one of those 16 people could have been one of your relatives. And whereas it's just another day for you, that person's life has been destroyed.
For some people,
so do I think we'll see gun control in our generation? No, I don't think so because it's too many people making money off of it. And I always say this, and I'll never say it on the podcast, but I'm going to be 100% honest. All these illegal guns out there are being sold by someone. Gun manufacturers aren't just giving away these illegal guns. People aren't just stealing these guns from gun manufacturers. Whether the gun is legal or illegal, people are making money off these guns. Guns are $1 billion business. And right now, people don't care enough to get rid of that money.
They care more about porn than they care about your gun.
No, they don't care. They don't care about porn either. It's just the fact that guns make the money.
Yeah.
When that report said that they didn't want to, when they voted not to hear the debate about guns, but pass a vote to say that porn is a health problem, that tells you something. That tells you a lot.
Well, Chris, give your final thoughts since you're back.
It takes two parties to tango, and hopefully both parties figure something out because there's too many people dying. And I understand the stat that says 2% of gun deaths are from AR-15, but that 2% is still people dying.
Yeah,
it's still lives being lost unnecessarily. Whether that's raise the age to gun prices, gun sales to 21, or make these gun laws a little bit more tighter, enforce them more, whatever it takes. Because people shouldn't have to wake up and worry about their children dying in school. Come on, that's something that nobody should have to worry about.
Well said. Everybody, give out your information where people can reach you guys at and hear your thoughts on everything else. You go first, Chris. You're last.
Like I said before, I'm part of According Sources. You can find us on Twitter at A2 Sources. My personal Twitter is 2_Christian with no I. Had a good time with you guys talking about this stuff.
Definitely. You go next, Eddie.
You guys can find me on Twitter at that retro code. You can check out my podcast, Optional Opinion, on SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play, and other podcast apps. Also check out NerdsGoneRogueRadio.com, where I also host Arsenal X, our Xbox podcast, Nintendo Power Block World 101 podcast, and other things. We have blogs that you guys can also check out there at NGRRadio.com.
D-Spin, give out your information.
You can find me on Twitter, dspin67. No podcasts, no blogs, no podcast yet. I'm working on it, but I got a lot of things on my plate. So we'll see. Hopefully in the next month or so. But it's been real. Thank you guys for letting me share this hour with you and have this debate. It's been fun.
Got a good question for you, Mr. Derek. I see by your Twitter profile that you're a Yankees fan, huh?
Yankees, Redskins, Lakers.
Gotta ask you about this Stanton Judge combo. Y'all think y'all gonna do it this year?
Man, there was only one team that had a murderer's row, and that was the 27 Yankees. It's gonna come down. You can have the best hitters. If your pitching can't do their part, you're gonna lose every time. So it's gonna come down to pitching. I think Judge and I think Stanton and the rest of the crew, they're going to do well. But, your bullpen has got to be solid. And
Yankees have probably one of the best bullpens in the game, though.
Yeah. But, I mean, they got to stay healthy. That's April is great. October is better. That's where the magic happens.
Last man. We got to bring you on the podcast sometime, man.
All right. Sounds good.
Definitely, man. As always, man, Delvin Cox Experience, we out. Peace.
Thank you.